Call me shocked. A circuit court just ruled in favor of the NCAA on this eligibility case, so that must mean that Levi Haines isn't getting a fifth season. Or does it?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
My name is Zach Seyko, your host as always, and thank you so much for being here as we are talking some Penn State wrestling. A circuit court says the 2022 class does not get a fifth year of eligibility, which means Levi Haines cannot come back for a fifth season. So the implications here with Levi Haines, what does it mean for the Penn State lineup? And talk about Jayden James going for U20 gold in a matter of hours. Friendly reminder, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. So if you missed the news, the NCAA actually won something in court. They, the 10th Circuit Court ruled that 2022 athletes would not be eligible for a fifth year of eligibility. So that means it's wrapped up. It means it's done. These guys can't play anything. They can't play football, basketball. They can't wrestle. No, that is not what this means at all. This is not a sweeping ruling by any measure. Okay. So when it comes to Levi Haines, when it comes to Penn State, this is honestly meaningless. What it does is it actually just makes things a lot more inconvenient. Rather than this being one sweeping ruling for everybody, there is still the opportunity for individual athletes to go and sue and get a TRO, a temporary restraining order, or an injunction. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not trying to pretend to be. I had to have this, I had to read up on this and have this explained in a way so that I could understand it. And I wanted to translate it for everybody else, because you might look at this headline and say, oh, Levi Haines isn't coming back. What does that mean for the lineup? Do guys shuffle around, right? Not exactly. What it means is that Levi, if he does, it makes it more complicated for Levi. It makes it more complicated for Jesse Mendez. If those guys want to wrestle, it means that they are going to have to individually sue the NCAA in their respective state for a fifth year of eligibility, because this only affects athletes who currently don't have a TRO, who don't have that restraining order, because in certain select situations, this isn't impacting other athletes. We're seeing football players that are returning from the NFL and going back to college, and in select cases, they are individually suing in their state, and the state court is granting a TRO. So Levi Haines, not Penn State, Levi Haines would have to go to a Pennsylvania circuit court and sue the NCAA, and then they place the injunction. This is the way that I've understood. And this is not only how I've understood it, but this is the fact of the matter, that Levi Haines would have to go to court, would have to get that TRO, that injunction, and therefore he would be eligible until there is a final case in this situation. So, but it becomes a states' rights issue. It becomes a states' rights matter, where if a court in Pennsylvania is going to say, yeah, the NCAA doesn't have that kind of jurisdiction, well, then Levi Haines gets to wrestle for Penn State. So that's kind of the simple answer of it. Jesse Mendez would have to do the same thing in the state of Ohio. I don't know how those states would rule. I guess in a way, I'm assuming that, Pennsylvania is going to rule in favor of Levi Haines, but we've seen other state courts. So they might take some precedent there from that while this ongoing legal battle continues. Again, I've said it on the show. I agree with the courts that are siding in favor of the athletes. I don't understand how, if you haven't used a red shirt, if you haven't actually gone through 5 years of college eligibility, why you wouldn't be entitled to a fifth year. Whether Levi Haines, the whole debate about, and we'll talk about it again here, Levi Haines, should he take the fifth year? Should he not? He should still be entitled to it. Okay? Why is it rules for everybody else, and then this section of athletes is not eligible? Okay, you change the rules at this time. The NCAA has to cover, okay, since nobody's contractually obligated in any manner. You don't get to make these sweeping rules that make this section of athletes just ineligible for no reason other than you said so. That's just not how it works. And that's why the courts are getting involved, because it infringes certain rights. Okay. Again, not a legal expert, not trying to pretend to be, but this is what is going on presently. Again, when it comes to Penn State and Levi Haines and a fifth season, I will once again say, you want Levi Haines back for a fifth year. I don't care that it complicates the lineup. I don't care that it creates a logjam. Levi Haines is your best option at 174. Heck, Flow Wrestling tried to make the argument that he'd be, that you want to try to get PJ Duke, Jayden James in, so therefore bump up Levi Haines to 184 and have Rocco Welsh go to the bench. Whatever the ultimate solution is, Penn State's lineup is better with Levi Haines in it than they are without him, especially a Levi Haines that is going into his fifth year, that is only getting better, right? He would be, and nothing's guaranteed. I am not trying to make any promises. I'm not trying to make any guarantees, but we know that Levi Haines would be the favorite. He would be the favorite to win another Big Ten title. He'd be favored to go undefeated. He'd be favored to win, which means he'd be favored to win everything in the postseason. And that's a 174 class that they just improve. Chris Minto gets better, right? The competition overall just gets better at 174. And Levi Haines today is better than your other options. Okay, Mitchell Mesenbrink in theory could bulk up to 174. And that's you wrestle that match 100 times. I imagine it's a 50-50 split at the end of the day. That's how good those guys are. But I would take a fifth-year senior Levi Haines over a freshman Jayden James, a second-year PJ Duke, right? William Hankel. All the realistic options that are at 174 for Penn State. It doesn't mean Penn State isn't going to win another NCAA title, or that they won't just be fine without Levi Haines. No, they would still win, but what's the best version of a Penn State lineup? And are you really going to tell the guy that's given everything to your program, who is the leading example of what a Penn State wrestler is supposed to be? They don't have captains, but Levi Haines is basically the captain of Penn State wrestling. And you're just going to say, we don't need you. So you can still practice. You can still be a part of the wrestling room, but we don't need you in the lineup anymore. So therefore we don't want you back. No. And Cael Sanderson has said they want Levi Haines back. Yes, it complicates things. And I'm going to explain that more in the upcoming segment with Jayden James, PJ Duke, Tyler Kasak. 2 out of those 3 guys would be on the bench if and when Levi Haines is back in the lineup. It is crazy to think. I've floated the idea that Jayden James should defer his eligibility so that Penn State can maximize the true 5-for-5 with him as a freshman going into the following season. You take Levi Haines back. He's your best wrestler today at 174. I don't care that Penn State Penn State will be fine. Oklahoma State is going all in, okay? I am not here to say that Oklahoma State is a threat to Penn State this season. Nebraska's going all in. The competition is trying to elevate. And if Penn State wants to say, well, we'll cut some corners here and we'll do this and that, then that's how you start to fall behind. The reason Penn State is always at the top level that they are at is because they operate this way, where the best of the best always wrestle, and they don't say, well, we can punt here because of this. And Penn State's always trying to elevate year after year. You got to break records. Penn State's not worried about Oklahoma State, Nebraska, anybody else. They are worried about, how do we beat the 2026 postseason team the next year? Cael Sanderson said that. He says, I want to improve every single year. So the bar keeps getting elevated. I don't say that as a metaphor where, Penn State's trying to beat the ghosts of Penn State wrestling. That's not a metaphor. That's literally Cael Sanderson's blueprint on how to elevate a program. It's, how did we do last year? How can we improve upon what we did the season before? If you're going to do that, if you're going to stick to that ideal, Levi Haines is in your lineup. Okay. He's the best option at 174, and you want him in your lineup. And he'll have a great pro career. He's 22 years young. He's not losing anything by being a part of the folk style lineup for one final time. There's more to gain. There's more to be had with Penn State, with Levi Haines being in the lineup, than him not being in it. With that being said, we got to talk about Jayden James because he does lose out on an opportunity to potentially, right? It just gets more crowded at 157. I think Jayden James could be the guy at 57. He's also going for U20 gold. Let's talk about the lineup scenarios going forward with Levi Haines, without him, and Jayden James wrestling for a world title this weekend. That is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Today's episode is brought to you by The Game. Since 1986, The Game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, a current student, season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. This year, The Game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. A classic college hat is something you can wear year round, whether you're heading to a game, you're running errands, or just showing your school pride. And if you wear a Penn State hat out and about, you know that you're going to get a "We Are" along the way. With hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day and every day. Don't miss the chance to celebrate 40 years of The Game with 40% off your entire order by visiting thegamecaps.com and use promo code Locked On at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com, promo code Locked On. Celebrate 40 years of The Game with 40% off. But do not wait. This anniversary offer will not last forever. This episode of Locked On Nittany Lions is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. And if you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make your free pick every day throughout the Major League Baseball season. Daily Dingers is a fun way to stay engaged with every day's games. Whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league, every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. There are certain players where every at bat feels like something big could happen. That's what makes Daily Dingers fun. You get to back the player you think is ready to go deep that day. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action over at FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's start with the lineup, and I'll go through the lineup as always. It's a running list, basically, until we get to the season. So if you're not up to date, Luke Lillardall is going to be at 125. 133, 141 is kind of a work in progress. It's a toss-up. It's either Blaze at 33 or Ono at 41. And what I think is going to happen there, and I've devoted segments to it and full-on conversations, but to summarize it here today, because of where the conversation's centered around right now in the middle to upper weights, I think those two wrestle off for 133. And then whoever wins gets the right of refusal. So if Blaze were to beat Ono in a wrestle off, then Blaze is going to take the 33 spot because I imagine he wants it. And Ono's the same thing. That's his weight class. So the situation then means that wrestler will go to 141 and then it creates another wrestle off. So if Ono loses to Blaze in that 33 wrestle off, he goes up to 141 and then you battle Desmond, you battle Davis. And I imagine Ono, even though it's not his weight class, would win in that instance or vice versa. Ono beats him, wins the 33 spot. Blaze goes up to 41. Blaze wins the 41 spot. Shane Van Ness, status quo at 149. Then we get to 157. With Levi Haines in the lineup, that means you are going to have, in theory, a four-man battle. If you ask me, PJ Duke, Jayden James, Tyler Kasak, and Joe Sealey are all in the mix at 157. Well, Jayden James can't go to 157. You don't know that at the end of the day. He's wrestling right now at 163 pounds, give or take, for the U20 world title. He can't cut 5 to 6 pounds for one season. Do we think it's that impossible? From what I've heard, just talking to people about Penn State wrestling and PJ Duke, he was going through more of a significant weight cut this past year. So why is PJ Duke able to do a weight cut greater than 5 or 6 pounds, but Jayden James can't? Jayden James has to go to 174. He can't cut to 157. I don't buy that at all. I think Jayden James is legitimately in the mix, and there's no physical restrictions. You're going to make compromises. You're going to make sacrifices. If 157 is the only realistic spot because Mitchell Mesenbrink and Levi Haines are not moving from 65 and 74, you have to take what is given to you. That is why PJ Duke cut weight a year ago, this past season, because in order to get into the lineup, you have to make sacrifices. So the competition only gets more intense. Jayden James, it's really, I think, going to come down to Jayden James versus PJ Duke. And at that point, PJ Duke, yeah, he's got the upper hand because he's been in the mat room for the past year. But Jayden James is the real deal. I'm serious. It is going, like PJ Duke, it is going to be shocking when Jayden James loses his first career match. Do I want to go that far, right? The biggest threat to Jayden James losing a match is not out there. It's in State College. It's in Happy Valley. It's in that Penn State room. PJ Duke or Tyler Kasak. I'm not going to discount Joe Sealey either. I think Joe Sealey beat David Carr. I know it's freestyle, but Joe Sealey beat David Carr, and then Jayden James beat Joe Sealey 10-0. So it just kind of paints a picture of how talented these guys are, but how on any given day, right? Any of these guys can go out and win, can go out and dominate, but who's the most consistent? Because Joe Sealey can give you title contention. Tyler Kasak can give you title contention. Obviously, PJ Duke. So can Jayden James. Which one gives you the most upside at that point? And you just settle it. Who wins the head-to-head battles? Who's going to win those wrestle-offs at the end of the day? If it happens to be Jayden James, don't be surprised by that at all. It's because the kid is the real deal. He is the favorite to win a U20 world title here. And he's 17 going on 18. He might have turned 18. I don't know when Jayden James' birthday is. But he's still on the younger side of wrestling. And Jayden James is going out there and dominating against senior level wrestlers. Right. I try not to say he can go undefeated. He could win 4, potentially 5 NCAA titles. Right. Again, anything can happen at the end of the day. But Jayden James is that kind of caliber of wrestler to be in that conversation. Whether he does it or not is a different story, but he can be in that conversation like a Jax Forrest. People, it's not crazy to say, hey, could Jax Forrest go undefeated? Could Jax Forrest win this many NCAA titles? Most likely not. But it's the fact that you can have that conversation about him. Same thing with Bo Bassett. I would group Jayden James in that caliber of wrestler in the future of wrestling talent in the same conversation as Bo Bassett, in the same conversation as Jax Forrest. At 157, I mean, we're talking about him potentially going up to 74 and being a national title contender for NCAA purposes. At 157, he cuts a few pounds. The strength would be unmatched combined with the speed. I would assume Jayden James goes undefeated and wins an NCAA title as a freshman if he goes out there and does it, until he doesn't. Until he loses. That is my expectation. So Jayden James is just the next wrestler. Don't think, oh, he's got to sit back and develop. He needs to wait behind Mitchell Mesenbrink, and then he'll be ready to go. So basically give him a redshirt season. No, I think he's capable of starting 5 years. I think this battle really does come down to, and it's not to disrespect Tyler Kasak. It's not to disrespect Joe Sealey. It is just the level that Jayden James is at. So Jayden James and PJ Duke are, if Levi Haines, if and when he does come back for his 5th season, if he doesn't, okay, someone's got to go up to 174, right? Maybe it's James, maybe it's PJ Duke, because does Duke want to do that weight cut anymore? It is exhausting. I know that those guys can do it, but I imagine that it's exhausting. And then you have 2 spots open, right? And then William Henkel comes into the conversation. So I don't get the sense anymore that Mitchell Mesenbrink, it would go up to, since Levi Haines, the possibility of him coming back means that Mitchell Mesenbrink's going to stay at 65. And one way or another, if you don't have Levi Haines, okay, it opens up another spot and it brings somebody else into the conversation. This weekend, James does go for a U20 world title. And I would expect him to win it. Again, anything can happen. The competition's really good. Obviously, it is the world tournament after all at the U20 level. But James was nearly the senior representative as a 17-year-old. He lost to David Carr by 2 points. That was the difference. Maybe it was 1 point. I don't have the score in front of me. But James is the guy to beat in this bracket at 74 kilos, which is give or take 163 pounds. So again, him cutting to 157 is not unrealistic. I don't think it's crazy. Of course, he's going to continue to grow, but right now he is around 163 pounds. And it is the favorite. There are other serious title contenders. Don't think, oh, well, Jayden James is going to win the U20 world title at 74 because this is a weak bracket. No, I would say from what other people have written up about this group, that there are 3 other legitimate title contenders that are a threat to Jayden James, but the common consensus is that James is the favorite overall, but he does have some other guys in this bracket that he's going to have to contend with one way or another. It's not just Jayden James and a bunch of other competitors. There are 3 other wrestlers that are absolutely champion level for this bracket. So he's got his work cut out for him, and that's going to go down over the course of Saturday and Sunday here, August 22nd and 23rd. That is where I'm going to wrap things up here on today's show. Friendly reminder, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Be a part of the conversation. If you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around Penn State wrestling, Penn State football, Penn State recruiting, all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions.